Happy Mother's Day out there to all you mothers out in Tennessee land today. My name's Frank Rock. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel. Woo! Tennessee just wraps up the series against Vanderbilt 3-0. Vanderbilt takes game 3 of the series. This is one that was it was not a beauty to behold if you're a Tennessee fan today, but I got the persona I've created, the outlaw on here. We're also going to go with old cool hand Frank today. Is you know what? I'm not going to overreact on this one. Was it a bad day? Yes. Was there things to be concerned about? Honestly, I don't think there's anything I saw today that concerned me any more than anything before, to be honest with you. Some of the things we saw today that were the issue, we've seen them at times this year. They didn't just creep up today or anything. Was it nice to see? No. Was it a fitting end? The last pitch of the game? Absolutely. Fitting in to the day. Really kind of surprised at how bad Tennessee's batters, other than Dylan Dreiling, looked today. But I said when I previewed this on Wednesday, I got it out pretty early in the week. I said, if Tennessee can go to Nashville and take 2 out of 3, that's a good weekend. And they did that because Vanderbilt coming into this game or this series only had 6 losses on the year. So Tennessee put a third as much more losses on them at home this weekend than they had up to this point. So I got a few of you in here right now. We'll see how long this thing goes. If there's not, I know it's Mother's Day. I know it's late in the afternoon. Probably a lot of people out celebrating today. I get it. My biggest thing we'll try to do this week is I don't know if I'll be live. I'm going to kind of make a decision on the Belmont game. I may go live Tuesday night. We'll see. I've been doing a Monday night live show. That's not going to happen tomorrow night. I got something I'm going to go do tomorrow night that I'm looking forward to. This weekend, Thursday through Saturday, Tennessee versus South Carolina. I do plan on being live all 3 nights. I don't have anything that I'm aware of at this point that would mess with that. But I want to try to get some videos and stuff going to build up, try to build this baseball brand as we move forward, as we get into SEC tournament in 2 weeks and then the regionals in about 3 weeks and hopefully super regionals after that. Let's see. Will Murley commented on this. Won the series, that kind of performance leaves a bad taste in your mouth. 0 for 27 outside of Dylan. Shaking my head, still a series winner. I cannot agree more with you. Cannot agree more. That's exactly how I feel about it. But, this is a team that's made things happen this weekend. Won a tough game on Saturday. This is always a high-stakes rivalry. And they just won 9 in a row against Vanderbilt. They've won 3 series now in a row against Vandy. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You think of where it was in the not-too-distant future in this rivalry. Vanderbilt, and you got to factor in, Vanderbilt is fighting for their tournament lives. You have to give – I'm going to give them credit. I'm going to give them credit. Their pitchers, their lefties today, had good stuff. They were on. They mixed it up well. And I felt like they had Tennessee's hitters guessing all day. Dreiling was the only one that made anything of it. And what's funny to me with that is him being a lefty, he hit the lefties well today. 14 strike. This has been one, and I'm sure a lot of us are the same. The 14 strikeouts today. That is too many strikeouts. That is way too many strikeouts for a team that's as good hitting as this team is. I look at the pitching. I mean, Sechrist give up 3 runs in 2 innings. I feel like it's Sechrist's game that he kind of is what he is out of that role. But you know what? Snead come in, did his thing. An outlaw 10-second throwdown. Man, Bob, I'm trying to get Cool Hand Frank in here today, not the outlaw. We'll see. There may be some topic that brings the outlaw out after a while. We'll kind of see with that one. That's always pretty hilarious. But, talking about, I'll go through some of the comments here. Will, again, I get Tony's preference of an opener. Maybe Snead's more comfortable out of the pen, but why not start him? I mean, he comes in, absolutely shoves. I kind of wonder if that as well. And I think Tony has alluded to it based on comments about how Snead wants to go more. I think Snead wants to start, and we've not seen him out of that starter's role to really see how he would do. I mean, we have seen it with Causey. He had the back-to-back outings against Georgia and Auburn where he gave up 8 runs each outing. They put Stamos, ever how they're pronouncing it according to the week, they put him in that opener role. And since that, Causey's been lights out. He really has. He has been more comfortable, I feel, out of that role. I'm with you on that one. I'm with you. I wonder if I like Snead to be available at the end of the game, but I also wonder if you're already planning on him to go this far on Sunday, why not just start him? I mean, Sechrist, if Sechrist had an ERA of 3 or under, I'm getting it. He's at 4.57 now, and he's not had many outings. I mean, it's the thing that amazes me on it. The surprising thing with me out of Sechrist is he went, 5 or 6 innings against Georgia, arguably the best offense Tennessee's seen all season. I mean, you look at what Georgia's hot right now, too. You look at what they did to Vanderbilt last weekend. You did look at what Georgia did to South Carolina at South Carolina this weekend. They may be the best offense as of right now in terms of how they're hitting the ball. I think Tennessee has some opportunity next weekend to get out some slumps against South Carolina. But South Carolina can hit, too. Tennessee's pitching's going to have to be out. Their openers are going to have to give them those couple of good innings and not let them get in a hole. And my biggest thing with Tennessee's hitting is just I feel like the lack of adjustments. But it's nothing new. It's something that's been there all year. And the amount of just strikeouts looking today. Let's see if they've got this on D1. They've just got Ks on it. You never know who has the box score, how it's going to look. Sometimes they'll have the Ks looking, but more a strikeout. Burke 2. I'm hoping some of these guys are getting this out of their system now, like Burke. His average has dipped about 50 points over the last month. Amick 0 for 3. He had the 1 strikeout. Tears a couple strikeouts. Dean Curley 3 strikeouts. I feel like Curley's been in a slump. Villeneuve 0 for 1 with strike. I'm going to discuss that DH role. Peebles, he pinch hit and looked bad. Cal Stark 0 for 3 strikeout. I've got a little bit of a red ass at Cal Stark right now. I'm going to tell you why on this one. He's striking out again badly, but he's a catcher. You want the umpires on your side, and I don't know how many times he's striking out looking on good pitches, and he's turning around saying something to the umpire. You do not do that as a catcher because you're not going to get those pitches when it comes back around to it. I don't get – he's done this a lot of the year. You want those pitches too if you're the catcher. You don't want to upset your umpire, and they get on these – I mean, I kind of put 2 and 2 together. You have these games where Tennessee has discrepancies with the umpiring at home plate. When your catcher is barking at the umpires for his lack of swinging the bat, it doesn't help the cause. I'm not blaming it solely on him, but that you just don't do that as a catcher. I mean, you try to get those pitches for your pitcher, but if you're up there sitting and watching, like Stark did. Stark had a bad weekend at the plate. And, the reason we're seeing him is because Cannon Peebles did not take advantage of his opportunities he had this year. Cannon Peebles was recruited in. Everybody was excited to get him. He was, worst case, he was a top 15, top 20 portal pickup. He was considered a very good portal pickup, and he's come in and he's disappointed. He enabled Stark to win his game back, which Stark was doing good things with the bat and definitely behind the plate. But Stark's average is back down in the 250s again. And it's not so much that it's dipping. It's that they're not even competitive at bats. And then he had the at bat yesterday. Nothing I can't stand more than watching a guy not being able to put a bunt down. It's pathetic by him yesterday. And if you're playing at the college level, and the pro level, you should be able to bunt. Normally, your best bunters are your best hitters. If I can't hit my weight, I better at least be able to bunt. That's one thing. If you're going to swing a bat, you better at least be able to bunt at some point. From the start, see, Ronnie Freeman from the start, the bats were flat, played like they were ready to get on the bus and head home the whole game. Yeah, they did not. The at bats were not even competitive today. But you know what? I'm just going to give credit to Vandy's pitcher. He was on today. He had good stuff. Thompson, he went 6 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, 9 Ks. He did hit 2 batters. I mean, his ERA on the season's 3.11. So that's a very good ERA, especially in this conference with some of the offenses that they have faced. And then Futrell that came in, went 3 innings, 1 hit, 5 Ks. He had that changeup working. That was a guy I thought they could hit. His ERA is now under 5, just like 4.97. But I thought when they got Thompson out, that was a good thing. But they did nothing with Futrell. And Tennessee had opportunities. They had, how many times did they have first and second with nobody out, and the bottom of the order got up there and just struck out? I mean, it's not me pointing fingers at them. It's not me criticizing them. The bottom of the order today had a bad day at the plate. They had a really bad day. And the at-bats, again, they were not even competitive. It was, again, the pitchers for Vanderbilt, they did a great job mixing it up. And that's where Tennessee, that's kind of one of the things with them. We saw it last year against LSU in the College World Series in the go-home game. Who was it? Ackerman. He was just had a good fastball, was able to locate his off-speed stuff, and that team had just a fit with it. Notre Dame a couple years ago when they come in, they had guys, their lefty that they had who was a freshman then, cannot remember the name. He was locating. He had good speed, and he was also locating his off-speed pitches. Now, I say that like Tennessee's the only team that has issues with that. I'm sure it's across the country. I'm sure it is across the country that, you have especially a good left-handed pitcher, good fastball, good off-speed stuff. If they're locating, teams are going to have trouble with that. You got to give the pitchers that credit sometimes, but also sometimes you at least got to be competitive and put the ball in play. Never know. Maybe you hit into a double play. Maybe you pop it up. Maybe you hit a dribbler and move the guys over. Maybe you hit a couple dribblers in a row. With guys on first and second, you move them up one, and then you get a run in. Small ball. Sometimes small ball wins ball games with it. This team has shown signs they can play it. They don't always play it. I think they try to do things. I've seen them try to do more things this year small ball-wise than I feel I've seen in a bit. But at the same time, I think just putting the bat on the ball. Just putting the bat on the ball goes a long way with it. And, Vanderbilt did a bit of that against Seacrest. I mean, you look at Vanderbilt's stats. They did have the 1 home run from their catcher. And then, just guys get on base. And because Vanderbilt is not a power hitting team, but Vanderbilt did get the 1 home run. That was really all they needed with what their pitching was doing today. Wanted to look here at and kind of the icing on the cake today. Let's see. Let me hit a couple of these comments. Really concerned for when we face a really solid lefty. It's like we can't read spin or location from the left side at times. Yeah, I totally agree with it. If it's a guy that's got a good fastball, anywhere from low to mid 90s, and some good off-speed stuff, whether it's changeup, breaking ball, or whatever, I felt like this team's been better at that this year. But then you see today, and it brings back those same concerns from the past on it. Feels like close calls doesn't go our way. We allow it to get in our head, and it's an out that followed. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of that. And I don't know. I've just not been one that I've thought the umpiring that I've seen, and some of you can remind me where I'm wrong on this. But there's when was it? Friday night? I think it was. They had the pitch they were upset about with Causey. I thought it was outside. I didn't really think Tennessee had a gripe on that when they thought they were out of the inning, and then Vanderbilt took the lead. But I thought it was outside. It was to the left of the chalk. Or that's the way I saw it. I will go that far with it. You're not going to get those calls when you're griping and complaining. I get it sometimes. Trust me, I get it. Umpires are not perfect. I'm not taking up for them. But especially some of these games where we've seen it going both ways. You got to figure out how an umpire is calling early. If you're the catcher, you should know how the umpire is calling the ball game and be able to relay it to your dugout on it. If Cal Stark's not doing that, that's on him. I've got to think he's relaying it. But if he is catching, he's seeing what the umpire is calling. He's seeing how much they're giving him inside and out. You should be able to relay that to your hitters. Hey, here's what you should be looking for. If not, maybe I'm giving him too much credit as a catcher, because that's something that should be happening. Now, if it's changing from inning to inning, sure, not much you can do about that. But if the umpire's consistent from the get-go on it, you have to adjust to it and go. It just is what it is. Maybe you're not happy with it. Maybe it's not right, but it is what it is. You know what the umpire's strike zone is. Okay. If he's set on it, you adapt to it and move on. Okay. If you stand there and watch it, knowing what he's calling, you don't have a beef, in my opinion, regardless of whether it's a true strike or not. That may not make a lick of sense, what I just said out here. But I think a lot of times you can tell how an umpire is calling early in a game. And if he's calling that, a couple inches outside, calling it a strike, yeah, you don't have to be happy about it. But you also, if you know it's coming, it is what it is. All right. Some bullet points I had on it. My immediate reaction was that the DH spot. This is one I really want to touch upon. Here is this DH spot. I feel this spot right now is like that sore that won't go away. It is. I've kind of been disappointed they've not put Peebles in at the DH, but then Peebles, when he pinch hit today, he didn't look good at all. But he didn't look any worse than anybody else in it. Robin Villeneuve started today. He did get a walk, which I thought that was encouraging, that he battled. He got that walk, but then he struck out with runners, on first and second, nobody out. Come up and struck out. Wasn't even competitive on it. Was not even competitive. And that was it. They pulled him out of the game after that. And then Peebles come in. That was the last at bat for the DH today. But that DH has been a glaring hole for a couple weeks now. It doesn't matter if Bargo, if it's Chapman, if it's Villeneuve. I've thought Peebles has done some decent things in some pinch hit roles. They put Bradkey Laurie in. I still wonder if your option is not to give, and I'm really surprised they've not tried this and given Antigua some at-bats to see what he can do. Give him some at-bats, put him at short. Maybe put Curley at third, Amick at DH. That's an option. That's one I've been on for over a week now. Just because I've not seen anything out of Bargo. I've not seen it out of Chapman, Villeneuve, whomever. Doesn't matter whoever. The only one I've seen it out of has been Peebles. But I feel like you need another bat. They really didn't even give back as much. They gave him one at bat on the weekend and have not given him another opportunity. So I'm not really sure why he hasn't gotten more of an opportunity. But, and that's why I was annoyed earlier in the week when they played Queens and they gave Charlie Taylor a bat. Charlie Taylor's on there to be an emergency catcher. I get they're giving him time during the week, but still yet. A guy like Antigua or somebody, Antigua's coming in almost every game at the end defensively to either play short and move Curley over, or just come in and play short on it. I would like to see him give him some at-bats to see what he could do. I don't know that he could do any worse than what these guys have been doing so far. I really don't. And other than that, I don't know what your options are. You're kind of limited in what they are. Your outfield's set. Your infield's pretty set. Stark's going to be your weekend catcher. He's going to be your tournament catcher moving forward. It really comes down to some of those guys I mentioned, or you giving Antigua a shot. I think that's really where it goes. I know they talked about Alex Perry swinging a good bat. We've not even seen Alex Perry. So I don't know if they're just if it's just lip service or what that we've got going on there. Got 18 of you in here right now. We'll see how long. I'll go another 10 minutes or so, try to get to my points on this, may wrap this thing up. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you like this thing. If you like the content, you share it. You haven't already and you like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. As always, we're accepting super chats. If you want to say super thanks on here, that's always appreciated as well. But get back to that DH spot. I don't know. I get where Tony's going with it. I get he's probably trying to get some guys hot, but I also wonder at this point, Bargo, Chapman, Villeneuve, every one of these guys are just coming in striking out in this spot, and then they're getting pulled. Backus, same thing last week against Florida. I just wonder if the pressure isn't there with these guys. I think it's natural to know, hey, I'm up here to do my thing. And if I don't do it, I'm going to get pulled. I can't help but wonder when these guys are looking over their shoulders, waiting on it. Let's see here. JL, guess we decided we didn't want to win today. I don't know if I'm going to give Vanderbilt's pitchers credit. Vanderbilt's pitchers were on. They pitched excellent ball games. It is what it is. I said coming into this series, if you go back and listen to that video, if I could link it on here, I would. I'll put it in the description at the end. But in the preview, I said if we can get 2 out of 3, it's a good weekend. I feel Tennessee will maintain their number 1 ranking coming out of the weekend. Normally, if you win 2 out of 3, win a series, especially on the road, you're going to maintain your ranking on it. And we look around for the way. The bad thing today, the thing that was kind of the kicker with all this, is that Tennessee's back a game out of first. Kentucky beat Florida in 10 innings. That's the sucky thing this weekend is Kentucky 2 times 10-inning wins. I will look at box score to see how that went. If this was a case of like Friday night where Florida led most of that baseball game and then Kentucky came back. Pulling that up now. Let's see what we got here. Still waiting on that to. Here we go. Let's see the scoring here. No, Florida tied it in the 9th. It was 3-2 going into the bottom of the 9th. Florida got a run to tie it. Kentucky got 4 in the 10th. Florida got 2 in the bottom, which wasn't 7-5. So Kentucky will maintain that 1-game lead going into next weekend. Vanderbilt goes to Lexington. South Carolina comes to Knoxville. I have a feeling this one could go down to the last game of the season on that. And I'm curious to see. Let's see what the schedule looks like for next week. See if I can find that. I think most of the time here at the end, these games are SEC-wise are definitely. Here we go. Most of these games, SEC-wise, run Thursday through Sunday. Georgia at 15. I'm thinking Georgia may jump into the top 10 after this week. That was a pretty impressive weekend for them. Wake Forest, I think Wake Forest possibly goes up as well. Wake Forest throttled Clemson this weekend. Wake Forest is playing good baseball at the right time, too. I don't think Tennessee's going to see Wake Forest in the regionals nor the super regionals. That was talked about at one point. Wake Forest probably could work their way up to being a possible super regional host. I think that's very possible, especially after their impressive weekend. Yeah, looks like all the games. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Thursday through Saturday. Arkansas, A&M, that'll be a big one. That's Thursday through Saturday. So if these it's top seeding for the SEC, it could come down to that last day. It is a very, very possible that it does. And yeah, I agree with this one, G. White. Hopefully they'll go up there. We need Vanderbilt to win some games next weekend for sure. I like Tennessee's chances against South Carolina, but Georgia's red hot. Georgia just throttled South Carolina in 3 games. I like that comparison in that I know Tennessee has that type of offense. It is at home, and I'm hoping Tennessee kind of has got it out of their system. The offense has not been what it was the last few weeks. Let's make no mistake about it. There's been some signs of struggles, but if you get it up, I don't even care if it goes into the SEC tournament. If they go into the SEC tournament and they struggle in that, I'm not concerned about it. To me, all that matters at this point, I do hope they bounce back against South Carolina. I think because you need that. You're playing for the SEC championship. But in the tournament, it is what it is. I mean, last year they got put out early. They still went. They were one of the last teams standing. They're going to host a regional. They are going to, pretty good chance, be up to host a super regional. The question is is that who are they going to get paired with along the way? And I've seen some people out there. Oh, I want Wake Forest and Chase Burns. You don't want Wake Forest and Chase Burns after the way he looked against Clemson Friday night. 17, 16 strikeouts. Be careful with that one. Everybody can say what they want about Chase Burns or what have you with it. This lineup and the way they I don't know that they would do well against Burns. I may be wrong. There might be a little extra with everybody in that game. But if it were to come that way, and I think the way I'm seeing it, with the way Wake Forest just won, I don't see how these two teams would see each other any earlier than Omaha at this point. I just can't see it. You got to be careful when you got a guy that throws that hard and can mix in pitches. Those type pitchers give Tennessee a lot of trouble. I mean, it's the same lineup. I mean, I agree with you about them staring down strikes other than Dreiling, but it is the same lineup that they had because they've kind of been depend on Inslee or Curley. You've had that DH in the 8th spot and Cal Stark hit 9th. So it's really not much different than it's been. And I don't know at this point, especially if that top 5 that you tweak them. I am worried about the bottom 4 in the order because I think Inslee's inconsistent. I think he's done some good things. This weekend, he didn't hit well. Curley, I feel like, has been struggling. That DH role's almost been non-existent. Peebles has given it a little bit of life. The others haven't. And then Stark, Stark had he had a couple hits yesterday, but he had the bunt attempt that was awful. Couldn't even move guys over. I'm not putting my trust in Stark as a hitter. He has exceeded, and he's come a long ways from last year when he was like 180. He's at 256 today. It's a significant improvement, but you still see days like today where he looked awful. He looked awful. I'm not criticizing for it. It is what it is. All right. I'm not going to sugarcoat. It is what it is. He had a bad day today at the plate. And I don't know. I don't know if they were looking off speed too much. There were times they were looking fastball, but I don't know. I'm just one of these that, again, I'm not in their shoes. I don't see how you get fooled by fastballs. I just don't. Especially one right down the middle. But I guess if you're looking breaking ball, that's kind of a pattern maybe you're looking at or what have you. If we just let Bandy, we'd be even UK owning the tiebreaker. Have to sweep SC next week. Hope UK drops one. Yeah. Yep. Gotta either have a sweep and Kentucky drop one, or 2 out of 3 and Kentucky drops 2 on that, or anything. That's kind of your scenarios at this point. If we tie it, Tennessee gets the tiebreaker. I don't know if they go like basketball where they would just say it was a split or not, but head-to-head should count for something for sure on that. But Tennessee is going to go in behind the 8 ball next weekend. But, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. And a part of me should be excited about the conference tournament when you get all these teams together battling it out. But I just think it's pointless. I would rather just see one last series and then we go to the regionals on it. I just think it's a pointless weekend where you're using a lot of guys, you're exhausting a lot of energy, and especially this time of year in Hoover, we know the amount of rain delays, we know the amount of things that happens, that guys are waiting half the night to play a baseball game, or they're waiting half the day. They're supposed to play at 12 and they don't play till 8. It's just exhausting. It's pointless. It's just pointless. It's a moneymaker. There's no point in it. And I guess it comes in handy for a Vandy or a Florida who's going to be fighting for their tournament lives come that time. And if Vandy goes up, beats Kentucky next weekend, Vandy probably solidifies themselves getting in. But they still have work to do as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. What kind of tolls that taking on these teams? Have to play at 2 a.m. They're playing all night. Good gosh. It's crazy. Some of those wait times for it. And I know Hoover's like a sacred ground for the tournament, but why not? I don't have a problem if they moved it to an indoor. That way they get them in. It is what it is. I feel like I keep saying it is what it is today. So I'm sorry for being repetitious on that. I'm just not one. I have a problem if they were to move it to say Arlington or move it to Tampa, one of these indoor stadiums and play. Who cares? They're getting the games in. That's all I care about. I don't care where it's at. Now, if they tried to move the College World Series from Omaha, yeah, that might be something to complain about. But the rest of it, I just don't have a problem just because we've seen so many senseless weather delays on it. Couple more bullet points I wanted to hit on here, and then I'm gonna get out, I believe. But let's see what we got here. Talked about the DH spot. So we've touched up on it a little bit. What's at stake this week? Belmont Tuesday. In the grand scheme of things, that game's not going to matter either way. But if you're Tennessee, I think it would be a good night for them to come out and get the bats rolling. They've not even rolled in non-conference games the last couple of weeks. They did what they had to do to win last week. They got beat pretty handily by Lipscomb the week before. Going back to that Missouri game, Tennessee has really not swung the bat that well. But good teams do find ways to win even when they're not swinging a good bat. I would like to see them come out with Belmont and kind of get out of their funk that they're in right now. South Carolina next weekend, I think that's going to provide them an opportunity as well. South Carolina's pitching staff, I don't think I'm not that crazy about their pitching staff. South Carolina can hit okay. With that said, who knows what will happen next week? I fully expect Tennessee to be able to score and to score well, and I fully expect and think Tennessee can sweep that series next weekend. South Carolina is ranked 13th. I don't know. They're inconsistent. They're an inconsistent team for sure, but they are a team too. If you struggle and if your pitching's off, that they can hit. They can hit. Let's make no mistake about that. So that's kind of what's ahead. SEC tournament, we'll see how that goes. I mean, Tennessee should be set up for a bye in that. What they're going to be probably facing is one of these teams fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. And then, you're either crushing a dream or you're going to the house and getting ready for the regional, which I don't really have a problem with. To me, if I were Tennessee, I would tinker with pitching. If some guys need to get bullpens in, maybe throw them a couple innings. But I don't think there's any reason for your Causey's Beams, Sneeds to go out there and throw 100 pitches or anything in the SEC tournament. Not unless they just want to get that bullpen in, depending on how many pitches they're getting in on a bullpen day. I know last year when I watched them in Columbia after the last game, it was the last game of the season, they were out in left field. Frank Anderson had guys getting their bullpens in after the game because they hadn't pitched that weekend. So we'll see. Bullpens are there. Do they throw A.J. Russell a little bit, get him some live action in? I would like to see some of your guys like Dylan Loy. We're not seeing much of Matthew Dallas. I thought he was a guy that could potentially factor down the stretch. The one's disappointed me the big I was high on coming into the season was Wyatt Evans, and apparently he got in the doghouse and has not gotten out of it. I don't think you ever see him pitch for Tennessee again. I just can't see it when a guy, unless he's hurt, and it's just we don't know it. But from what I've read on it, he got in the doghouse early in the season, and I thought he was a guy who could be a vital part of that bullpen. Good lefty, looked good 2 years ago when he pitched. Don't know what happened last year with the injury, but something apparently happened this year, and we've probably that we saw 2 years ago was probably the last time that we're seeing him pitch in a Tennessee uniform. That's just my guess. That's speculation on my part. Dylan Loy, Banky come in, looking to pitching today for Tennessee. I mean, you give up 3 runs with this offense. Normally that's enough to win a baseball game. But like I said, I'm going to give credit to Vanderbilt's pitchers because they were on. Snead 4 1/3, 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 Ks. Did give up a couple doubles, but I mean, it is what it is. His ERA is down to 2.57. That's very good. Banky, 2/3 of an inning, a K, only faced 2 hitters, took care of business. Kirby Cannell, an inning, 2 hits, faced 5 batters. He's been that's been about how his outings have gone. They're normally a little bit of a adventure here recently with Cannell. 4.31, Banky 3.44 ERAs on the year. So, but I mean, Cannell's going to be a vital part of that bullpen down the stretch for sure. And yeah, it will. I think we'll see how they answer on that one. Do they come out with kind of the fire in their eyes, or they just come out ready to get to South Carolina? I'll be interested to see how it is. I would think right now, if I'm in this offense, I want to come out and get out of that slump. Really do. Got to figure out how to make some adjustments, though. I think that's the biggest thing. My biggest concern is those lack of adjustments. We just don't see that choke up and hit it the other way. We just don't see that choke up and put the ball in play. It's an all or nothing mentality. And I would love to know, I'd love to see the stats on how many Ks there were looking today. There was too many. There were way too many. And those pitches were beautiful that they were watching as well. Looking at that, I think it's pretty much set. I guess I've just not adapted to this opener role. Yeah, I know the Tampa Bay, the Rays were they're kind of synonymous with starting at. I'm not necessarily against it. I just, if I'm going to have an opener, though, I better make sure that opener can open. I have a little bit concerned about Sechrist as that opener still. There's game you have like the Georgia game where pitches lights out. And, anything over a couple innings, I think with him's icing on the cake. Today gave up 3 runs in 2 innings. That's not really what I want to see out of an opener, to be honest. Could you go a Loy or a Banky, possibly? I think probably at this point it is what it is. You're going to see Stamos, Causey in your first game, Beam your second game, and then you got to be looking at Sechrist, Snead on there. But, when you get to the regional, you don't have that luxury of 3 games. You piss the bed in the first 2 games, your season's over with. So, do they switch it up and go Beam game 1 and then switch it around, or they continue with the same? I mean, I don't know. The good thing is with them in the regional, your 4 seed, hopefully you're not facing Wright State, who was just an ungodly 4 seed a couple years ago. Had no business being a 4 seed. Should have been at least a 3, if not a 2, based on their numbers. But, you saw that was 3 years ago. 2 years ago, you had, what was it? It's one of the Alabama State, Southern Alabama, somewhere like that. It was more of your 4 seed you want to see, where you can kind of not have your best game and take care of business. Now, but as much as we see in the midweek games, though, you cannot take any team for granted. That's the one thing I look at. I don't get that concerned about midweek games, what happens, but that's the type of team you're going to see in the regional to start off. You're going to have to take care of business with them just the same as you are a Vanderbilt or a Georgia or whomever, like our Kentucky, any of those teams. Looking at where they're at, if Tennessee's overall 1, you would think there would be a seeding system where they would get the last team in, but it just doesn't always work like that. They should get somebody to where maybe not their best game and they can handle it pretty well. Game 2 is going to be your key. So, maybe you do keep it the way it is with Beam, but that opener is still the one that kind of, we'll see where it goes with it. We'll see where it is. I do think in the off season, though, with Beam's going to be graduating. Causey, I think there's a pretty good opportunity. He's going to be drafted. I think Snead's a true sophomore. So we'll have to look on that. You're going to lose probably almost all of your offense outside of Curley. You're going to have a lot of replacing to do. I think one of the biggest things, though, is they're going to have to go out in the portal. I would venture to say find at least a couple of starters, a couple starting pitchers, because there's some that's been really the last 2 years the starting pitching. Last year it wasn't. I didn't think it was that great last year. It's been pretty good this year. I mean, their weekend staff's getting the job done. Their bullpen's getting the job done right now, but I would still like to see a couple guys added to that rotation who can get you 5, 6, 7 innings. Your beams aren't all around the nation. Don't get me wrong. A guy can go a consistent 5, 6, 7 innings. But, man, it'd be a bit. If they had Holman from LSU, how much could that have? Man, I mean, you think of the possibilities this year. if everything would have worked out, you could have potentially had a rotation of Burns, Holman, and Beam. That would have been sick. That would have been absolutely sick this year. But, such is life. It's not what they have. I feel confident they'll roll what they'll roll with Stamos, Causey, Beam, and then, depending on how they go. I can't, unless Sechrist has another bad outing next weekend and he possibly goes to SEC tournament and has one. You could see him change it. But I think they like Snead available at the end of those games. And I think he wants to start. I've kind of read through it with the way Tony Vitello's talked numerous times, but they seem to feel comfortable with the way they're doing. And it's worked. It's worked for the most part. I don't think you can blame the pitching for today. Not when you have 14 strikeouts and score no runs. That's not on the pitching. Pitching did what they needed to win. The offense, I've talked about that. Just to analyze it real quick. I'm thinking this is more of a long-term thing. I don't know that it's going to get fixed this year with their approach, especially when they face a guy like they did today who's on with their stuff. A guy with a good fastball and good off-speed stuff. I would love to see it. Adjust to the pitches. How do they adjust those off-speed? Taking it the other way. We just don't see that often. We don't see it often. I mean, your Christian Moores, your Amex occasionally. I mean, Dowling, look at his adjustment late. He's a guy who adjusts and go the other way with his game. We see guys do it occasionally, just not consistently. And today was one of those games where it wasn't happening there as well. But I feel like I've hit about all those points. Just look at that lineup. They're going to have to figure out something out of that DH role. And I don't know. Maybe it's who gets hot here late that Tony will keep rolling guys out, or do they eventually maybe bite the bullet and give Antigua that shot? I mean, they really don't have that many options. And, with that said, too, the thing you got to keep in mind, although I think Inslee's been better, Inslee's come up clutch some here recently, his batting average still is what it is. It's a product of the season. I mean, his batting average is still 254. It's not a great batting average by any stretch of the imagination. And, he's kind of like Cal Stark, 254, 256. You're kind of, they're more in for their defense than they are their offense. So anything you get offensively out of them is more icing on the cake. But you need a little more consistency there. And that DH spot, if you've got two guys who, their best is 1 out of 4, you need somebody in that DH spot who can give you a little bit more on that. I'm curious to see where they go with that on Tuesday against Belmont. If they make any kind of tweaks, they try to get any guys any swings, or how they go. But I think I'm going to wrap up on that one, guys. 44 minutes in. I get it. It's a Mother's Day, but I'm thinking right now I'll probably I don't know why I moved my microphone here. Actually, I'll see how it goes. I may go live after the Belmont game Tuesday night. I think there's some things to discuss possibly. You're going to have Belmont Tuesday, the off night, and then Carolina Thursday through Saturday. So hoping to go live then, and we'll try to come up with some topics building up to the end here, talking about the scenarios and whatnot. If there's any kind of basketball news, I've seen nothing. I've not even looked on any ball stuff today, to be honest with you. I've not even, just haven't done it. Look to see what's going on. If there's possibly been any kind of basketball news on it. Any football news. I've got some ideas, some pretty good ideas for football that getting ready to start. So I'll keep you posted on what I got in mind on that as well. But all you mothers out there, all of you guys on here, your wives, your daughters, your grandmothers, all that, happy Mother's Day. I hope they all have great days. And last but not least, guys, make sure you hit the like, the share, the subscribe. I'll probably see you Tuesday night. I'll keep you posted on that. I think there's a pretty good possibility we'll do that, discuss kind of where Tennessee's at with their mindset and how they look against Belmont. But I hope you have a great rest of the day. And last but not least, go Vols.